Okay, I'm now going to Theo and his partner's house towards Suspiria. And I'm a little bit scared because I hate, in theory, movies like Suspiria. I watched the trailer for the new Suspiria only halfway through because I couldn't take it. But doing that, I noticed my narrow-mindedness about this subject, so I'm gonna try my best to start appreciating new movies and not just Jason Bourne's family adventures. So we'll see what happens. But I hope that this is gonna be really cool. Hello everybody. We're about to watch a movie that I think will probably be
Great.
1.5 hours of pseudo artistic bullshit basically. And the reason that I wanted to do this is because I think that there's a possibility that I might be wrong about the movie. I don't think I'm wrong, but I might be. And the other thing is that I want to sort of try to expand my movie, the types of movies that I watch. Like I usually don't like this sort of movie type that is sort of kind of trying to be an artistic genre movie that with lots of pretty colors and random boobs and
Who doesn't like random boobs?
well, I mean, it's a cheap attempt in a way. I mean, you have a shitty movie, so what do? You enter some random boobs and some artistic elements into it, so to make it better. But it's not gonna be better. It's just the same meal with some soy sauce on it.
So, to clarify, we're watching Suspiria,
Yeah.
the original one by Dario Argento. There's a new version out now, done by the same guy who did Call Me By Your Name. And I'm sort of looking forward to it, not because I'm a huge Giallo fan. I have a bunch of Argento movies on my shelf, mainly because I had a friend who was selling all his Giallo stuff. And there were like 6 movies, and he said, like, for 20 euros you have the lot.
And so, no alarm bells went off in your head.
No, I mean, I don't have a problem with stylistic endeavor, and I don't have a problem with Dario Argento as such. I know that the movies themselves are they're very 70s, they're very Italian, like you said, there's gratuitous nudity, and there's a lot of
good thing, I have to admit.
there's a lot of exotic color, and nothing much happens, and everything is slow, and everything is very stylized. I appreciate Giallo as a movement. I don't particularly watch Giallo movies. I don't think that that's necessarily the thing that I'm that interested in, but I like it stylistically.
Yeah.
For me also, I don't think that this next 1.5 hours is going to be like, I'm going to watch the best movie ever. I'm going to watch a movie that's sort of lays the base for watching the new one, because recently I saw Halloween, the original one, and then we saw the new one. And although neither of those movies were particularly great, seeing them together was worth it, because there was a lot of stuff in the new one that reflected from the old one and so on. So I'll be interested to see. I've seen Suspiria, like, I think I don't think I'm exaggerating if I'm saying 20 years ago. So I don't remember any of it, basically. But we'll see. We'll see what it's like.
Yeah, I think this will be interesting, because my cardinal sin is that I watch too many movies that are basically like
Shit.
yes, basically like shit. So, and I'm sort of getting addicted to that sort of movie that I can't really step out of the boundary of shitty movies into the boundary of really good movies without experiencing some sort of psychological pain. So I just want to expand my horizons, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we're gonna do, and we will be telling you all what we thought about this when the movie is over.
Yep.
Suspiria.
Yes. Was it hard for you?
Surprisingly, what's the opposite of hard? Limber. Because it sucks, but it's sort of pretty to watch.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Like I said in the intro, I'm definitely not a giallo guy. And it was such a long time since I'd seen Suspiria, and when I'd seen it, I haven't been young enough to sort of be taken aback by the horror. But I understand, because it's the same that happened with the new one. It stayed with me. There's a lot of images there that are really, really well crafted in terms of just garnering attention and staying in your head. As a story, it's, I mean, there really isn't a story there.
Which is
Yes.
Run a Dance School. Yeah, it's a weird movie, really, the old one. And it's sort of it's such a ridiculous thing, really, the movie in a way. But and that's the interesting part about the new movie, because it did a pretty good job of grounding it, making it seem like this could happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird in the old one, because, I mean, I understand the aesthetics of giallo, and I understand the Italian aesthetic as well, that everything has to be, I mean, if you watch Italian television, it's like people running around and screaming and explosions of confetti and stuff like that. It is that kind of stereotype of manic aesthetics, because it is a very expressive culture.
Altra balla che racconti tu il tuo giornale di merda! Merda come te! Quello sei tu! Un pezzo di merda! Mal cagato!
Ma sai,
quello sei tu!
Chi vede in casa
Scusa,
sa capire la differenza tra chi urla e chi dice la
di
verità.
superiorità di Maremma maiala! Solo basta!
So in that regard, I understand why Argento's been such a huge thing, why he's been so influential, and why there's been a movement created around that, because he is a very, very good he's had some very good help from production designers, and I mean, the house in the original one is spectacular, and all the interior shots basically, but it is difficult to watch giallo if you're not in that mindset of just, I'm just gonna watch this series of beautiful images and I'm gonna try to turn my brain off in terms of wanting an actual plot and believable things.
I would like to meet a giallo fan and have him or her explain it to me, that how can they just, I mean, I like music videos and stuff like that is just pretty images that make no sense. But when you have a full-length movie that is just pretty images and this really thin thing called the plot and characters, and it's sort of An hour and a half is a long time to watch
a music video.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Although the music, obviously, in the first one, Goblin has also influenced a lot of music makers. Also here in our hometown, we've got a band who was very, very influenced by Goblin's music, called Night Satan. They're actually releasing a new album this weekend. But I agree that it's. But then it's also, we had a short conversation about this as well. That what is watching a movie? I mean, we're so inundated with watching American movies, which are plot driven, that we don't really watch movies as just moving art. We need that plot for it to make sense in a way.
Yeah.
And if we don't have that, then we're not satisfied with the end product. And that's partly because we are so pre-programmed for the plot-driven movie.
Yeah, I think that's a human trait, to have the narrative, to have a compelling narrative that sort of, I mean, everything from the Bible to all sorts of ancient literature is basically plot driven. It has a narrative to it, and it has compelling characters in it. So I think it's a really ancient thing to be, it's an ancient human thing to want some sort of compelling plot.
Yeah, but that's also, I think, that doesn't hold true when we go to, for example, if we go see an art exhibition.
No.
We're not necessarily, I mean, we want to be able to sort of wander around and start from this room and start from that room. And some art exhibitions obviously have a sort of a plot, but few art museums are like IKEA, that you have to follow a certain path in order for it to make sense.
No.
So we don't necessarily need that plot.
No.
And this sort of, I mean, there's really no need for, I mean, in literature it's different also, because in a way, because you have to, if you don't start from page one, then where are you going to start from?
Yeah.
You can basically start reading a book from the middle, but it creates, it's a confusing thing to have work like that.
Yeah, it's sort of like it is a trait of the art form. When you think about a movie, it has a starting point and then it has an end. So it sort of has this, it mimics.
Classic Aristotelian.
Yeah. So it's a play or theater or something like that, and you can experiment with it. But I mean, it was fun watching that movie, because it is really pretty, but then again, it's sort of old.
Yeah.
So everything in it feels kind of dated, and then when you don't really have a plot, it might be. I mean, I just felt like, what's the point of this movie, really?
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. It's funny. I saw there's a thing in Empire which is called the First Take Club, where somebody who's somehow a significant movie maker or some kind of person watches a movie that's sort of on the lists of classics, but for some reason he or she has been able to not see it, and then they watch it, and usually they're disappointed by the end result, because I mean, there was a guy who watched like The Godfather when he was 40 or something, and he'd heard everything about it, obviously, from somewhere, and then the myth is bigger. But there was a comedian who'd watched Suspiria, and it was really funny. I think if you wanna have a take on what Suspiria feels like for somebody who hasn't been a fan of the whole thing at all, and writes really funnily, it is a very modern take on what Suspiria looks like. But I mean, yeah, obviously the storytelling is slow, and obviously the aesthetics are different. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what kind of, how would somebody, how somebody would have reacted when it came out. That was it still sort of over the top and unbelievable? Because, for example, for like the blood is very, very clearly like red paint in the movie, and there is no. In the 70s, there were people making sort of realist movies about stuff like that. So, how did it feel back then to see that? Because then you didn't have the burden of the slow storytelling, or have the, I mean, the culture was.
But I guess obviously it had to be something different even back then. So, if it started this sort of style of cinema, and I think it is, and that's the thing that sort of you were talking about, the images and the music that sort of stayed with you. And it's true that it has a lot of those things, that it, so in a way it has more merit than a lot of sort of okay, well-made movies, but that are just completely forgettable. But this isn't forgettable. That is sort of, it's a good thing.
But there was, for me as well, I don't think that there's much re-watching value.
No.
Like I said after the movie when we watched it, it'd be something that I might put on the background in a party or something like that. Just have it run and have people see, sort of look at the images and so on. But as a narrative movie, I don't think that I need to see it again.
No.
Well, moving on to the new one.
Yeah. The new one was pretty damn good, actually. I really liked it.
Madame Blank's incredible.
1, 2, 3.
The way she transmits her work.
You have to decide, what is it you want to be for this company?
It was really beautiful. The acting was really good. I think the setting in this sort of like a grey East Berlin that has this sort of a revolutionary vibe to it. It was an interesting combo, and I don't really even, it's been something like a week since I saw it, but I don't really know what to make of it in a way.
Yeah.
It has this element of being a little bit ridiculous to it that might be just me, like when they revealed the Jabba the Hutt type wizard, which at the end you kind of you're sort of taken away from the movie, and it's, for me it has these sort of absurd elements to it, and I have trouble sort of like putting a lid on my own mind during those moments that when my mind starts to yell that, oh shit, it looks so ridiculous. I really laughed out loud a couple of times during the movie when you're not supposed to be laughing, and one of them was the Jabba the Hutt, and I think the other one was, what was it? But it has this sort of an element of being a little bit of a like a silly thing.
Yeah. I read about the movie, and Luca Guadagnino, who directed last year's Call Me by Your Name, which we talked about briefly, which you haven't still seen. No. Yeah, it's a very, very different film, and I hadn't seen his previous work. I remember seeing A Bigger Splash, I think it's called, where there's Dakota Johnson and there's Tilda Swinton and then there's Ralph Fiennes and Matthias Schoenaerts, and that got sort of it got sort of polarizing reviews as well. So I didn't go see it. It ran in Turku for about a few weeks, I think, but I missed it because I thought, well, that's borderline. And after I'd seen Call Me by Your Name, I thought, well, it's a good thing I didn't see it because I didn't particularly like Call Me by Your Name. I thought it was a very well-made film, but it speaks so much to the to the emotion of watching a movie and less to the brain kind of thing.
That sounds different. Did you change it?
Well, I changed it a little bit.
Why?
I just played it the way Liszt would have played it if he'd altered Bach's version.
And I thought that it was a sort of a retake on Bertolucci's, what the hell's that name of that? Stealing Beauty. That I just felt it was a series of pretty pictures.
Yeah.
You film a movie in Italy in the summer, and everything's nice, and everybody falls in love, and it's all of that sort of it just isn't enough for me to think that this is a great movie. Well, apparently Guadagnino had seen the original Suspiria very early on.
Yeah.
Like it was one of the formative films that he'd seen. Like he said that his father was a bit irresponsible because he saw like Psycho when he was 7 years old, and then he saw this when he was like 10, and obviously these sort of movies that give the chills to people who are way older than that, then they have a really profound effect.
Yeah.
And he said that he'd actually wanted to make a remake of Suspiria ever since he wanted to become a filmmaker. So he was originally going to do Suspiria before Call Me By Your Name, and Call Me By Your Name was supposed to be this really small film that he was gonna just do quickly and get it out of the way and get back to doing Suspiria, and then suddenly it blew up.
Yeah.
It completely blew up, which obviously gave him probably a larger budget for this movie, and there was obviously opened a lot of doors for him, but he still really wanted to make it. I thought that the new one was, I mean, the end of the year is coming up, and we're gonna have to maybe do a best of the year thing maybe again in the beginning of next year. And this is easily, I don't think that this year has been particularly great in movies, but this is easily among the top 10 for me. Easily. I mean, I'm hesitating to say that this is the best film of the year. It might not be the best film of the year, but it's up there in like top 3 for me. I think it was utterly fantastic, but I agree with you that it is ridiculous. In part probably because Guadagnino wants to make references to the original film, and it's really hard to think about the original film without being a little bit ridiculous. But partly it's also to do with I think partly it's to do with him wanting. He said in one of the interviews that he really wants to be a polarizing filmmaker. He doesn't want to make projects that are safe. So in this case also he enjoys the fact that some people, I remember one critic said that Guadagnino is so interested in showing how art is abstract and terrorism is abstract and political things is abstract, that his camera actually sees nothing. That it's just he misses the forest for the trees in a kind of way. And I think that he really enjoys thinking that there are people who really, really hate this film, and there are people who really, really like it. And I don't think that there's a lot of people who say, well, this was just okay. This is just basic run-of-the-mill filmmaking. And I obviously like that kind of movie as well, because
It is more interesting.
Yeah,
to
I've
see
spent
something
so
like
much time watching movies that nowadays it just needs that extra jolt in a kind of way. I also like movies that are really well made, genre pieces. Like, for example, Mad Max Fury Road was really, really good. There's nothing new in that movie. But it is so well made in its own genre. I love that kind. But then if you go the other way, I love these kinds of movies that really have rewatch value.
That's true. And it has the best suicide ever. If someday I'm gonna kill myself, that is the way I'm gonna do it. just stand up and take a knife and start stabbing yourself. That'll
work.
That was the moment when I started laughing. Yeah, it was brilliant. Just the image of somebody like, I've had enough. It has a lot of these, and it's really good film because it just, in a way, it has a lot of different flavors to it.
Yeah.
And the plot, I think, was really clever in the way that it changed the plot of the original into something else. And I found it really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for the part 2.
Yeah, there apparently is some kind of sequel.
Really?
I think that I think the Wikipedia page says possible sequel.
Okay.
But I don't know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
And the witches really get it on with the Grandmaster.
Let's get it on!
Yeah.